Excellent. So, welcome to the second month of this training. Um, Last month, we were looking more at script writing, script development. Um, Second month, I've dedicated to Recording Basics 101, and this is probably the presentation that I do the most often. And the reason why I do this one the most often is because not only is it a good starting point, but I also do firmly believe that 50% of any good recording is going to be down to some of these um, foundational building blocks. So I'll share my presentation here. Great. So I always just call this one Recording Basics 101. Of course, to the participants that are here, if you have any questions at any point in time, please do feel free to turn your microphone on and chat. You don't put your video on. Feel free to turn on your microphone at any point. So as I mentioned, last Zoom was really focusing on developing scripts, whether or not that's using AI or freeform or sitting down and writing it from scratch. Obviously, we want to be able to make sure that we have something to record with before we get to the recording stage. But what we will be looking at today is some of the basics in terms, again, of equipment and some hacks around that as well. How to be able to record, how to be able to edit, how to be able to do some polishing up of that recording as well, and how to add music. This, to me, is sometimes if I need to do a recording for someone, what I will show you in this presentation is all that I will do, and it can still produce a really good professional sound recording. So what I'm showing you this week is absolutely vital. As I mentioned before with the script, we really focus on that last Zoom. If you haven't watched that particular replay yet, please go and have a look at that. We were exploring last time about how to potentially use AI to come up with script ideas, and also what needs to be in that script about going from the pain to the pleasure points. The script, as I've got there, is, of course, entirely optional. If you're really good at being able to free flow and unconsciously produce a script, do that. If you're confident in sitting down and writing your own and being able to make sure that you're really writing the strongest embedded commands and being able to really look at the language and feel that you have a really good script, by all means do that. And of course, you can use AI to help in creating a draft of a script as well and editing it from there. I would always recommend, as I said last Zoom, if you are going to use AI, then make sure that you don't just read that script verbatim. Do go through it and make sure you put a bit of yourself within that. Now, obviously, your voice. The reason why people like to come and see you is partially because of your voice. As we know, with your voice, communication is mostly body language and unconscious signals. But then the next thing after that is going to be tone. So even more so than language itself. And your voice is such an instrumental part of that. There's lots of different ways in which you can record your voice. Obviously, you could use your phone. You can just grab your phone, use whatever recording is on that, record straight into that, take the file off and put it into the application we'll show you afterwards. You could use a platform like Zoom, pretty much exactly what I'm doing now. You could set up a meeting with yourself and then just talk into the camera. And even when you export that, after you hit record and stop, it's going to give you an audio file there. There are more advanced platforms out there like Descript. They are great, but they can often be quite technically fiddly for those who may not be technologically minded. You can use AI to voice or replicate your voice. I still feel, while AI is getting exponentially better at these things, that it's still not exactly there yet for hypnosis recordings. Or you can go with this try and tested approach. This is what I'm showing you. This particular Zoom is going to be the approach that people have used for decades now. And the fact that if the wheel ain't broke, don't try to fix it. That's not the saying, is it? You know what I mean. We'll just go. So before we jump into that, there's a few things that I think are worth noting. Firstly, the recording environment. As important as the equipment, the recording environment itself should be somewhere that is peaceful and where you're unlikely to be interrupted. It isn't absolutely essential, but it helps enormously. So for instance, I'm currently sitting in my study. I live in an old school that was opened in 1888 and has been converted into apartments. The glass that is directly in front of me here is some of the original glass, and it is super thin. It has that kind of bauble in it. So when you look through, you can see the distortion. It's that old. And so the sound from outside just floods in here easily. This is not a great environment for me to be able to do recordings in. And yet I can still get away with it through things like picking what time of day I might do it in. And also just there are particular plugins that I can use that can help to remove as much of that background noise as possible. Although if I could find a space that is quieter, I will use that. And generally what I will do is go into my clinic room just down the road, because it can be really lovely and quiet in there. An environment that has soft furnishings and surfaces. So one of the key reasons for that is that if you were to go into your bathroom or anywhere that's tiled, and if you were to speak loudly or even sing, you'll notice that there is this natural reverb that happens in there. It's why singing in the shower sounds so good. Now, that natural reverb is referred to as a live room. When it comes to recording speech, though, that can be a little bit problematic. So if you have an environment where there's soft furnishings and surfaces, it absorbs that sound and creates what's referred to as a dead room, which is really ideal for spoken word. As I mentioned, they're away from street noise and somewhere where you can escape your partners, or children, or pets, simply because anything that can create interruption is going to slow down the process or potentially end up on your recording itself. I've got there, if you have a closet that is big enough, that is actually the ideal place to go and do the recording. You have your clothes hang in there. You can take in a little bit of light. I actually know someone who did all of her recordings in the closet, and she was amazed at the difference between recording in that space compared to recording outside of that closet in the room next door. So that is one tip. If you have got the space, go and do that. It was interesting during the pandemic, whenever they did any kind of voiceovers for films. I remember seeing one instance, I can't remember who the actor was, but he literally had set up his closet to be able to do that voiceover work in there. Now, your performance is obviously equally as important. And one of the things I would tend to recommend to people is to have your script on an iPad or to use an online teleprompter to avoid the sound of turning pages. Because if you do have that sound of turning pages in there, it's more than likely that you're going to have to go back into the recording afterwards and edit them out, which is going to be time consuming and annoying for you. There is also a website that I'd recommend. I'll just shut that down there and go here. So this site here, which is https://qprompt.com, they have a great teleprompter service here that's free. You can type in your script here. And if you do start new prompter, it will come up with the script there. And then you have all of these options up here to help change the size of the font, change the speed that it's running, even change the text color if it's hard to see. And that way you can just hit record on Audacity, which we'll get to afterwards, and then have the script flowing so that you can just sit here and read it out loud. So that's one thing I'd often recommend for people. I can see a question there. The question is, Rebecca, you have to play with that. Absolutely. And that reminds me, obviously, that any of the links I show here, I will put in the replay as well so that everyone has access to them. You won't have to jot it all down now if you don't want to. So jumping back into my presentation there. Most importantly, slow down. Don't for dramatic pause there. The number of times I've gone to do a recording with someone and because they're not actually doing a hypnosis session at the time, it can feel slightly different from doing a hypnosis session. So they'll get behind the microphone and they will start, and it will be too fast, and I'll have to stop them. And generally what I do when I stop them is I'll take a moment to, even just for about 5 or so minutes, I'll just do a gentle guided meditation where I encourage them to go back to one of their favorite sessions they've done, one of their most successful sessions they've done. See the client in front of them, hear themselves talking, get themselves present into that moment. And then when they're there, I get them to open up their eyes and we begin recording again. So if you can, go into hypnosis when you do your recordings. That is going to help enormously. And that would be one thing I would always recommend. Even before you start recording, have a mindful moment, go into your comfortable state, recognize the pace that it should be at, and then begin recording. Now, what you need to make a hypnosis audio recording at home. Now, this is, just to be clear, this is not in the clinic room. It's not with your client and you having headsets or anything like that. This is you at home recording a hypnosis audio recording. Now, obviously, you're going to need a computer. Of course, I mentioned before, you can use your phone, but even if you want to clean up the recording afterwards, you're still going to need a computer of some sort. And I'd be surprised if I can find a home nowadays that doesn't have some form of computer in it. So first thing, computer. Secondly, a microphone. Now, ideally, you want to be able to get something like a USB microphone, potentially one with a large diaphragm that can record lots of sound, capture all of your tone. The image there is a Blue Yeti microphone. They're probably the most popular home microphone you can buy. They're relatively inexpensive, and there's a lot of them around. The one that I've got here in front of me at the moment is also from the Blue brand. This is a Snowball. And again, these are fairly inexpensive as well. This one I've had for about, maybe 10 years now. And I've got a Blue Yeti as well. They've been around for ages now, and they absolutely last. But of course, you don't have to spend a fortune on them either. And one of the things I always remind people is that quite often I see people feel like they need to have all of the right technology before they can go ahead and record. And that's nonsense. Have you seen how good the microphone is in the new MacBooks nowadays? I got a MacBook Air last year with the M4 chip. The microphone in that is phenomenal. And quite often I can just sit there and record on that computer straight into that built-in microphone, and the quality of it is more than acceptable. So nowadays, microphones are getting cheaper and cheaper and easier and easier. Now, if you were to get your hand and put it up towards your mouth like that and start saying words beginning with P or T, you'll notice that there is this expulsion there that hits your hand. Now, you can imagine that if you were doing that close to a microphone, it's going to cause distortion on your recording. These things are known as plosives. And so we want to be able to avoid them. And there's a couple of ways to do that. In terms of equipment, there is this thing called a pop filter, and it sits in front of your microphone so that if you were to accidentally do that expulsion of air, it breaks that up before it hits the microphone. To be honest, these are relatively inexpensive. And if you have a coat hanger and stockings at home, you could probably make one, to be honest. But having said that, I know that in Australia, if I go on eBay, I could probably buy a pop filter delivered for about $20 or $30. Now, if you know anything about our dollar and you're in Europe, for instance, that's probably about €15. So they're not overly expensive. The other thing you can do is that if your microphone is a tabletop one, instead of placing the microphone directly in front of you, just do it at slightly a 90-degree area. Make sure you're talking in front of it, but not having the air hit the microphone. And that could be also a convenient way to make sure you're being really mindful of plosives. I will add one thing. I was doing a recording for I was cleaning up a recording for a hypnotherapist once she was doing her recordings in New Zealand, and then she was sending them over to me. And one of the things I noticed was that she would frequently hit the table as she was recording. And this was, of course, unconscious for her. She wasn't aware of that. But it meant that every time she did hit the table, there was a sound on the recording, bump on the recording. She was also kicking the table occasionally too, and generally while she was saying her name. So it was distorting on her name more than anything. And if you find that you are someone who is a bit of an unconscious table hitter or table kicker, there are things called microphone boom arms that you can connect to your table, and you can hang the microphone from that, so that if you were to accidentally hit the table or anything, it's not going to impact on that. These are things that you'll probably discover, though, as you start to do your recordings. Sometimes there's things that you don't know until you start to do the recording, and then you go, oh, right, okay, I'm a serial table hitter, or whatever it is. So these are other things to help there in terms of what you might consider getting if you're wanting to be serious about recordings. Headphones. I generally recommend that when you get to mixing your audio, and this is generally when you're determining the levels between your voice and the background music, that you would use headphones to mix it. The reason why is because I'm going to hazard a guess of 95% of the people who listen to your recordings are probably going to do them through headphones. And sometimes the difference in terms of how the music sits with the voice is going to be perceived differently through headphones than when you might listen to them without headphones. So I always recommend, when you do go to the point of mixing your music and your voice and determining levels, headphones are probably essential there. You don't need to go for super expensive ones unless you really want to. The reality is that most people are probably listening to the music on modestly priced headphones. So even inexpensive ones are going to help to make sure that you're creating something that's going to sound good on headphones. And lastly, you're going to need a digital audio workstation or audio editor. This is this piece of software that is going to sit on your computer and is going to allow you to create your magic within that. Now, fortunately, the piece of software that I work with is a piece of freeware. It's been updated quite frequently lately as well. It's getting lots and lots of updates all the time, which can be a challenge for someone like me who's doing training, because they keep shifting how it looks and where features might be, but they're building on it. So I can't really complain when it's free. It's also works across different platforms as well. So if you've got a Windows machine or a Mac machine, they have versions of the software available on both. And that software is Audacity, which I'm sure many of you have heard of before. You go into any of the hypnosis forums, and as soon as anyone starts talking about how do I make hypnosis audio recordings, the number of people that will jump up and say, Audacity is, you can see it there. I know some people also talk about GarageBand. The reason why I don't teach with GarageBand is simply because it's only available on a Mac, whereas Audacity, I can display it on both Windows and Mac, and everyone watching this can benefit. So let's jump across to Audacity and have a look at it. As usual, I am just going to keep talking until anyone has any questions. Oh, actually, this was what I will show as well. So where to download Audacity from. If you do a search on Google, make sure you download it from audacityteam.org/download. So the page should look like this. This is where you'll be able to get the most recent versions of it. The only reason I say that is because there will be some instances where there might be pirate sites that are a little bit dodgy. So make sure you get it from audacityteam.org is the URL to go to. Now, jump into Audacity. Now, when you first start with Audacity, this is the window it looks like. And if you haven't played with Audacity before, I'm aware that it might look a little intimidating at times. I assure you that it's not. And even within the next 10 or so minutes, I'm hoping that I'm going to be able to make it feel a lot more accessible for you. So when I approach Audacity to work with it, the first thing I'm going to want to do is to make sure I tell Audacity which microphone I'm using. With that, I will add, if you are using a USB microphone, make sure you plug it in before you start up the Audacity app. The reason why is that if you start up the Audacity app first and then plug in your USB microphone, it may not find it. And you'll be sitting there scratching your head going, why can't I see my microphone? So yes, you need to make sure you plug it into USB first and then start up your Audacity app. Once you've done that, you can go into your audio setup, and under recording device, you can choose whichever microphone you want that's listed there. So in this instance, I'm going to be using my Blue Snowball microphone. So I click on that. Now, the next thing I am going to want to do is to make sure that I've set my recording level before I start recording. So the easiest way for me to do that is to go to my microphone recording meter here. If I click on that, you'll see that there is Enable Silent Monitoring. If I click onto that, you'll see that there is this bouncing green bars here, which is the UV meter. And it's giving me an indication here in terms of my volume in decibels. So at the moment, we can see that I'm coming in at roughly -12 decibels. Ideally, the volume level that I'm going to want is going to need to be somewhere between -6 and -12 decibels. So when it's low, and if I can't adjust the volume here to turn it up any further, that means I'm going to have to get closer to it, which I feel sorry for you guys because it means you're going to see my bald spot. Apologize now. But if I move closer to the microphone, you can see that it's already between -6 and -12. The other thing, of course, is to be mindful of the fact that I'm talking my normal speaking voice right now. Of course, when I do hypnosis, I'm not necessarily going to be using this voice. My voice is probably going to be softer. So I may be in the initial instances wanting to do a test run just to make sure that what I'm recording is going to be somewhere between that -6 and -12. Once I have set that level low and I kind of know what I need to do to get my recording to sit in between there, I can go back into the microphone and disable silent monitoring. Once that's all set, I'm at a point where I can start to do my audio recording. There's a couple of things that I will share with you first. The first thing is this: when I hit record, I'm going to go quiet for 5 seconds before I even start speaking. There's a reason for that, obviously. Not that I'm shy, although I can be sometimes, but there is a reason which we'll come back to. The other thing is this: inevitably, you are going to trip over words at times, particularly if you're me. I have a habit of doing it sometimes. We will make mistakes. And so when you make a mistake, you don't want to have to stop and start again. Instead, the process I recommend is this: if you make a mistake, you stop, pause, clap, pause, and then begin speaking again. Now, I just realized right now, there's a noise reduction filter on my Zoom. So you probably will not hear me clap. You will see me clap, but you probably won't hear it. But you will hear it on the recording when I do the demonstration back. So apologies for that. I just realized then, and for the sake of not making this fiddly, let's just roll with it. Tell you what, when I clap, you join in and clap on your side to provide the sound effect, okay? We'll work together collaboratively here. Okay. So here we go. In a moment, I'm going to hit record, 5 seconds of silence. I'm going to just free flow and ramble on something for a moment, which will be interesting given my slightly tired state. I will intentionally make a couple of mistakes, and I'm only going to do about 30 seconds to a minute. simply so that we have something to work with and demonstrate here. Okay, here we go. Begin now by just that wasn't very good. What I did there, because I had my keyboard on my lap, is that my stomach accidentally stopped the recording. So how about, as embarrassing as that is, I'm going to delete that and we're going to start again. Live webinars, can't beat them, right? Okay, so hit record. Begin now by just taking a deep breath in, holding at the top. And as you breathe out, just release and let go. Taking another deep breath in. Hold at the top. Hold at the top. As you breathe out, imagine letting go of any of the stress, any of the tension, any of the concerns that you have for your day. That's right. Okay, now, so we've done a bit of a short recording there. It's not going to break any ground in records there, anything like that. It's pretty average. However, you can see that we've got the recording here, and it's been obviously presented as a waveform for us to look at. If I want to be able to see the entire recording that I've done so far, I can go into View. I can choose track size, and I can choose Fit to Width. And I can then see the entire recording in front of me. Now, you notice that whenever I coughed or whenever I clapped, it created these spikes within the waveform. And the reason why I did that is simply to create a visual cue for me to be able to edit that recording easily. So if I was to, for instance, highlight a section, and I can do that by going onto the point of the timeline where I'd like to start, clicking on my mouse and holding it down and dragging it across. And if I was to play this back, and hopefully you can hear it. If you can't, please let me know. Taking another deep breath in. Hold at the top. Hold at the top. So the reason why I did 2 hold at the top is because I can hear my voice crack a bit on that first one. And so I thought, well, it's an opportunity for a double whammy here. So if I listen to that again, just to identify where I want to edit it from. Taking another deep breath in. Oh. So it's from this point here. And I know that I want to be able to edit from that point there to that point there, which is where I pick up the line hold at the top again and deliver it properly. So all I need to do is to, again, go to the start of the mistake, holding down my mouse, drag it across to select the portion that I wish to remove, and then hitting delete on my keyboard. And you can see that that has now removed that from the recording. If I do it again over here, so I'll just select this. Now, of course, if you've been doing a 30-minute or 45-minute recording, it's going to be a very long recording. So sometimes what you might need to do is highlight a section and then go into the zoom in to be able to get a better idea of what you're playing with. If I play this portion, any of the tension, any of any of the concerns that you... Okay, so that's the start of the mistake. And that's where we wanted to pick up. So again, I can click in at the start of the mistake, drag the selection across. Now, if you have an instance like this where you've gone too far into the selection, what you need to do is to go towards the edge of that, and you'll notice that it changes into a little bit of a arrow. And if I click on my mouse now, I can drag it back and fine tune it in. Even over here, I can drag it in a little bit more if I want as well. And once I've done that, I can hit delete. And I can zoom back out again if I want as well. I've also got a bar down the bottom here that can scroll the waveform across. Now, at the start of the recording, there was that 5 seconds of silence. And that does serve a purpose, because now that I've taken the time to edit out any of the mistakes, which would always be the first step that I would do, I now want to apply something referred to as noise reduction. And the way it works is this: I will give Audacity an example of the background noise around me and say, anything that sounds like this, I want you to remove from the recording. So this is a 2-step process, and it's a relatively straightforward one. The first step is that I want to be able to make a selection of the background noise around me. And that, of course, is the 5 seconds at the start. So I can simply make a selection there. And if I play that, you'll see from the playback meter that this is coming in currently at around negative 36 decibels. Okay. Now, if I go into the effects menu and click on that, within that will be noise reduction. And if I click on that option, this pop-up box comes up. As I mentioned, you can see that it's a 2-step process. So the first step is that I've highlighted a selection of the background noise that I wish to filter out. And now I can click this button that says Get Noise Profile. And when I do that, we've now told that particular plugin effect, this is an example of that background noise we want to remove. The next thing is I want to be able to select my entire track. And I can do that one of 2 ways. I can either double click within the track, or alternatively, I can go to the master controller here and just simply click there, and it will highlight the whole lot. And then I can go back into Effect, choose Noise Reduction again. And what this is basically saying here in the second step is currently, any time that Audacity comes across that noise sample, it's going to reduce the volume of that by a further 16 decibels. Now, the reason why it just doesn't completely eliminate it is because that kind of digital silence is very different sounding to just reducing the volume down and having kind of be an ambient background. In fact, it can be quite jarring in the difference between the two. And we'll probably explore that in the next Zoom next month, just an example of that as well. So we can say here, okay, whenever you come across an example of that background noise, reduce it by 16 decibels. These other settings are generally about right as well. And if I click OK on that, it goes through and cleans it up. Now, of course, this file is only 1 minute long, even like probably 45 seconds, to be honest, once I delete the 5 seconds at the start. If it was a 30-minute or a 45-minute recording, it will take a little bit longer to do. So don't expect your recording, if it's 30 minutes, to be as quick as that. It sometimes will take a bit more time depending on the length of your recording. But if I go back to look at the background noise again now, it was negative 36 before. Now it's barely registering at all. And with that, I can now delete that 5 seconds at the start. I can delete some of the end as well. Now, just double checking, I don't know if people can give me a thumbs up or not, but could you hear the recording properly before? I'm just wanting to make sure that I did actually share the sound, because I can't remember if I did or not. And if I didn't, then it's going to be not as good for you. Let's have a look here. What's it say? Thumbs up. Thank you. Appreciate that. Awesome. So now that I've edited out, now I've done noise reduction, let's just have a quick listen to it. It's only like 43 seconds by the looks of it. Go back to the start. Begin now by just taking a deep breath in, holding at the top. As you breathe out, just release and let go. Taking another deep breath in, hold at the top. As you breathe out, imagine letting go of any of the stress, any of the tension, any of the concerns that you have for your day. That's right. So a couple of things I observed there. Like, I mean, it's great now that there's no coughing fits, there's no me falling over words. Awesome. I did notice that every time I said hold at the top, the word top, there was a slight plosive there. So what I might do in those instances, if I was really concerned about that, I might go back and just record the word top and just copy and paste over the top. You may not be aware of this. This is normally something I cover in Zoom 3, but you can literally highlight, go into edit, choose copy, and then go anywhere else into that and do paste, much in the same way you do like a word processor. So I could literally copy a word if I wanted and go to another word and paste that over the top. So there's ways that you could go back and re-record a word or something if you felt inclined to do that. But if I'd listened to my own advice and put the microphone at 45 degrees and used a pop filter, maybe I wouldn't have had that problem in the first place, just saying. Let's have a bit of a chat now about adding some background music to this. So there's a few ways you can do this. Firstly, you can go into File, Import, and Audio, and then you can go to wherever your music is selected and upload it in that way. Or alternatively, you can literally just drop and drag your MP3 file or your WAV file, or whatever you want, into the music that way. Okay, so I've done that now. This is a 30-minute background music, so a bit excessive for our demonstration today. So what I can probably do is go into the 5-minute mark there, highlight the rest, and hit delete, just to make it a bit easier for us to do for this demonstration. Go into view and do track size fit to width so we can see both. Excellent. So if I was to hit record, if I was to hit play right now and we just listen to it, let's see what happens. Begin now by just taking a deep breath in, holding at the top. As you breathe out, just release. Taking another deep breath in, hold at the top. As you breathe out, imagine letting go of any of the stress. Taking another deep breath in, hold at the top. Any of the tension, any of the concerns that you have in your day. That's right. So listening to that, there's a few things that you might observe. Firstly, some people might prefer to have the music start first and then the voice come in maybe 15, 30 seconds or more after that. The other thing is that some people might prefer that the music ducks down a little bit when the voice is there, so it's not as overpowering as well. And of course, some people would probably like for the music to fade. So they are the key things that we're going to look at right now. So in terms of moving the voice so that it would start later or at another position other than right at the start, All you need to do is to go to your voice track, and you'll see that at the very top here, there is a lighter color bar. And if I move my cursor into that, it forms an icon of a hand. And if I click on my mouse and hold it down while it does that, you can see that it grabs that track, and I can now move that track to wherever I want it to start. So we'll go around the 20-second mark there. And when I release the mouse, it drops it into place. It's now locked into that position. The second thing we want to do is to be able to drop the music down when my voice starts. Now, one thing I will say before we get there is that if you put in a piece of music and it's on the whole too loud, you can use the master control here volume to turn it down a few decibels. You can basically do a bit of trial and error to see through your headphones how much down it can be, and then use the technique I'm about to show you to help duck it down a little bit further when the voice is there. Likewise, if you wanted to increase the volume of your voice, you can use the master control track there to bring it up and down as you need. It is worth noting at this point in time that the other option there is left-right channel. So if you want to play with things going through the left channel and the right channel separately, this is how you would do it. What we will look at, though, right now is being able to duck the volume down. And so to do that, I might just zoom in on that track a little bit. And you can see that we've got up in this control here, one that's referred to as the envelope tool. And if I click on that, you'll notice that around all of the waveforms, there are these blue lines that appear. What I want to do is go to the music track, and you'll see that my cursor has now become a little hourglass. And I want to be able to do one click twice. So one, and again at the other side. So one click. And what I can do now is go to the inner click and holding my mouse down again, drag that in. And same on the other side, just drag that in as well till it forms a straight line. And now what will happen once I click back into the selection tool and out of the envelope tool, it now locks that in so that when the voice starts, the music will dip down. So let's have a bit of a listen to that just to see. Begin now. Just taking a deep breath in, holding at the top. And as you breathe out, just release and let go. Personally, I think that's a little bit too quiet. I can see that there's, I don't hear the music well, almost inaudible. Yeah, I agree, but not so much the music in Zoom. Okay, thank you for that. I do think the music is a bit quiet there, so I'm just going to turn that up a bit. And I'm also just going to go into my share settings for a moment. So I'm just going to stop sharing and just make sure that I have got it set up properly. I don't think I have, you know. Okay, let's try this again, and you guys let me know if it sounds a little bit better. Begin now by just taking a deep breath in, holding at the top, and as you breathe out, just release and let go. Okay, so I can see messages coming through. It's either going to be a positive or a negative here. Yes, can you both sound better? Great, okay. Oh, what a shame. I didn't have the sound on properly. Apologies to anyone watching the replay. Hopefully you can hear it better there too. Rightio. So either way, I've adjusted the volume again because I felt that the music on the volume, see, it frazzled me now. The volume on the music was perhaps a little bit too low. So I've adjusted that back up again now. So now that I've done that, the last step that I'd want to do is about how do I do fade out on the end. Now, realistically, of course, I probably want a couple of minutes of music to fade out on. So I can perhaps choose the 2-minute mark here. I can highlight the rest and delete that. And then what I will do is to go from the end of my speaking and just highlight that section until I get to the yellow line. See that yellow line there? I do not want to go over the yellow line because if I do, then I'm fading into the silence that is already there. That yellow line indicates the very edge of the waveform. Once I get to that yellow line, I know that I've selected the right amount. I can go into Effect and choose Fade Out, and it will do a natural fade out for me. So, not that I want to subject you to it all the time, but now we've done that, let's have a listen to this final 2-minute masterpiece that we've created this evening, so to speak. Begin now by just taking a deep breath in, holding at the top, and as you breathe out, just release and let go. Taking another deep breath in, hold at the top, as you breathe out, imagine letting go of any of the stress. Taking another deep breath in, hold at the top, any of the tension, any of the concerns that you have for your day. That's right. So I would probably fade that out a bit sooner. However, we're not here to necessarily create a masterpiece here. This is a demonstration. And we're about to have a thunderstorm here. I don't know if you guys can hear that because of the noise reduction, but literally the loudest clap of thunder right then. Again, not the best time to record an audio recording. But we are nearing the end anyway, because now once I have done my recording, once I've edited it properly, set the levels, made sure I'm happy with it, it's now time for me to be able to export it. And the way to do that is to go into File and choose Export Audio. And I will choose Export to Computer. And then I can, at this point, give it a name. So it's going to call it Test. Give it a destination or a folder. Select my format, so either probably MP3 or WAV. The difference between the two is that MP3 is a compressed file format. It has all the frequencies the human ear can't hear stripped out of it, so it's a smaller file size. Whereas a WAV file is a lossless file. Basically, it has every single thing in it still, all the frequencies you can't hear, it's still in a WAV file, or a WAV file, some people like to call it as well. These settings are absolutely fine if you're choosing to use MP3, and you just need to, one other thing you can do is go into edit metadata. What that is the information about the track. So if they were to take a track and to put it into an MP3 player, this would come up. So if there's anything there, you would clear it. and then you can put in your, your name, the artist's name, track title for the test, the year, 2026, genre hypnotherapy, obviously track type 1, and then I can hit export, or hit OK, sorry, and then hit export. And it would now save it to my desktop as a finalized MP3 file, ready for you to be able to upload into a cloud, perhaps, and to send a link to people, or however you wish to potentially distribute them across. So now that I've done an hour of just talking at you, is there any questions? May not be, but I figured that it's worth asking if there's any questions or anything that people wish to raise. This has been very helpful. Wonderful. Oh, I added the very end. This has been helpful, but I know you meant very helpful, Rebecca. Thank you. Any other questions or anything like that at all? Because next month, what we will be doing is looking at the various different effects. So what we do with the various different effects might be things like how to slow it down, how to change the tone of your voice, how to do reverb and echo, some really interesting, playful things that can be experimental. So the invitation I have between now and the next Zoom. Now, after Zoom 1, hopefully you wrote your scripts. Now the invitation is to take your scripts and to begin to record them. And I would recommend saving them to your computer so we can come back and play with them a bit further if you want. In fact, the recommendation I would have is once you've recorded them, edit out any mistakes, but then save it at that point and keep a version of that there, so that we can play with some of the other things as well. But next month, if you're interested and curious, come along and we'll be exploring some of the different effects that could be used to make the recordings even more experimental or trancey. I'm sure many people would be keen for that. Otherwise, if there's no other questions, I can't believe I managed to just do that with 2 minutes to spare. I thank everyone, and I guess I will see everyone next month. What I'll do is I will stop the recording now and see you all then.